Morning, everybody. Welcome to this April 13th Swanky morning. Swanky. What is that? That's a green tea. Last week we were dazzled with dazzling. This week we're going to feel some energy with Swanky. Next week we're going to embodiment. So we're in China and you're not. However, you're here about to enjoy this wonderful tea. This is the second out of 3 green teas. And today, you're going to have a chance to try a small varietal. So this varietal comes from a region that is right next to the Yellow Mountains. So it's Anhui Province. It's from a small village township called Tunxi. And this has become famous in the local area. And actually, over time, it's been famous. So in the Ming Dynasty, so think 1368 to 1635 or so, during that dynasty, late in the dynasty, there were people who wrote about tea from this area, praising the tea. It was green then, it's green now. It's always been the same methodology. The township of Tunxi has this historic village. So this village has buildings from the Ming Dynasty, full of artists, and a nice little lake. Just a beautiful area. So what's special about this green tea? Is it done in the usual manner? So you pick, you apply heat, you roll / shape, or you and finish up by baking? Or is there something else which is going on with this? So this tea is interesting, and because it's in a relatively more remote place, they had 2 methodologies for making it. One was to stir fry it and roll, and usually finish off with a very slight bake. The other was to directly go into bake, roll a little bit, and if it needed any more baking, they do a slight bake for that. So you had both things going on. It produced a different flavor profile. Ours is the stir-fried profile, and they don't do, to the best of my knowledge, much anymore, just the straight into bake. That's really hard, straight into bake. Doing the stir-fry is a little bit easier to set up for. So that's really the processing methodology. What's the pick? And when is the pick? These are spring picks, and they're picked usually around the cleaning the graves holiday, so April 4th, April 5th. The usual pick is a bud and 2 leaves. Occasionally you get a bud and 1 leaf, and occasionally you get a bud and 3 leaves. So there's a little more leaf in this. So the result is, this should tell you already there's going to be some more oomph to this flavor. Not that the last tea, Dazzling, didn't have oomph. It had plenty of oomph, but it's a different type of flavor profile that you'll see in this tea. This tea is hard to come by because, again, it's done in this small area. And Chinese love this tea. And so in this area, they actually consume a lot of it. People in the know from outside of this area in China also know to ask for this stuff. But in the foreign market, you don't see this very often. So we were excited to come up with this. I believe you are in for a special taste treat today. I might ask the tea master to come up and brew for you. So unlike other sessions where we're here, she's only going to demonstrate and you'll brew right along. You'll take notes and pay particular attention to the difference of this tea versus what you had last week. Remember, this tea is about 100 miles or less away from where the other tea last week. So yeah, dazzling last week, about 100 miles away, Swanky this week. So it gives me great pleasure to bring up the numinous tea master to go ahead and demonstrate Swanky. Oh, too big. You can't get around.
No, you're going.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Okay, we do, the green tea, Swanky.
Yes.
It's John talk to, this the village close, that's, the week, we had, the dazzling.
Dazzling.
Yeah, same. So also, so this area, is famous, but I like this village, some of the artists, I like shop. So I spend little bit money. So each time I visit, the farm. So yeah, I like it. Okay, we do green tea. So
Yeah, the rules for this are 5 grams, 2 minutes, 170-degree water. Both this and dazzling need a little bit of lower temperature water. And, as a reminder, for those of you who have pots, and I know I've said this about 10,000 times, but just in case you weren't on the sessions where I said this, if you have a pot, remember not to cover it. This is a brewing pot. You're best off, again, with these delicate greens to brew them just straight up in mugs. But that's up to you. If you do use a pot, don't cover. Certainly don't use an insert because the amount of tea that we use just won't fit nicely in an insert. Is this an aesthetic thing? I said fit nicely. No, it's not an aesthetic thing. It is that the tea leaves themselves won't have the space to roam around and all contact the water.
so
I'm sorry, go ahead.
green this is the green tea, so it's the same, in China. They use the large glass, right? Yeah.
They
Same
do, and this
yeah.
is a really good point. Let me amplify this point because people assume that all teas are handled roughly the same, either in a Ishin clay pot or a gaiwar, and that the cups that are used to consume the tea are roughly going to be the same. And that's just not true. By region, by style, it's different. It's typically a glass cup. It's usually somewhere around an 8 to 12 ounce cup. So it's very similar to this. These are 16 ounce, but it's almost never the tiny boom cups. Okay, put the leaves into the heated glass. Put the water, if you have a kettle with a spigot in it.
Yeah, John, you're right. This never use gaiwar.
Yeah, no,
Never use
never
gaiwar, only
see them.
yeah,
using gaiwar.
only glass.
You pour on the side. You set for 2 minutes. So again, looking at this, oh, you know what? I can't count. I can count pretty well. I can't remember. It was really 3 minutes.
So the Brewing style or the small cup style, I should say, is going to be reserved for oolongs, right?
By and large, it's oolongs. Occasionally, you'll see it used with raw blacks in Yunnan, but that's not often. It's usually just really focused with the oolong teas, usually Fujian or Chaozhou or Canton Province. Of course, on the internet, you can see anything, but traditionally, this is how you normally think of this. Great question, by the way. And so taking a look at this, you can see this is a beautiful tea, mostly congregated at the top. Take your notes out about dazzling because you had that last week and look at the difference in the leaves. There's a big old obvious difference in the leaves. The dazzling were huge by comparison. These are smaller. There is definitely already a different aroma profile. So think about that as you're brewing this. And there's going to be a distinct different taste profile. And remembering, this is kind of a valley. It's a beautiful valley that you drive into. And again, in the distance is the yellow mountains. But in these valleys, different communities arose. And in this particular valley, it was a community of artisans. And so usually when you have artisans, you also have connection with Buddhism, with Taoism, and then you also have a connection with tea. So different things are going on in the valleys and the separated places. And this is Tunxi. Think again of Wui Mountains. There are valleys within the Wui Mountains. They're in the mountains. This is not so much in the mountains, but again, there is this combination of Taoist and Buddhist all together and cooperating and thinking about and exploring tea and its relationship with man, its relationship with the beliefs, its relationship to how to remain present, how to, in quotes, remain awake. And what do I mean by remain awake? What I truly mean is actually the physicality of being awake while you're meditating, because that's originally what attracted the Japanese when they came during the Tang Dynasty and saw that Buddhist monks, Chinese Buddhist monks, were using this and able to meditate in a wakeful state longer. Timer has gone off. You're separating the tea leaves from the tea liquid. And again, you notice the color of the leaves is different. The size of the leaves is different. You're going to notice everything is different. And yet, this is only 100 miles from 100 or less from dazzling. We're going to enter the quality arena. Before we do, we're going to look. And so the look, from my perspective, this has a little bit more green in it than the dazzling did. Certainly a wonderful aroma. All right, so let's enter the quality arena. This is a 170-degree liquid, and we're going to have a chance to take a slightly bigger sip, cover the tongue, ascertain astringency, aftertaste, and energetics. We didn't talk all that much about energetics last week, but I hope you took good notes because I remember the energetics I had, and I did have in the words. Oh, right away, I know I'm tasting something different. Oh my goodness. And by the way, the astringency is in a little different place for me. This doesn't have that huge cooling effect that right away dazzling had for me. Let's see if anything else is different. Oh my goodness, smell is different, and the taste in some ways, I don't want to influence you, but for me, the taste of this is slightly more forward than dazzling. More forward doesn't mean better. It just stands out in a certain way that's different than dazzling. Both are really, really good. Energetics, wow, I think I'm already getting a little bit. I'm going to try another sip. Oh, yeah. There's energetics with this. I'm getting revved up. This has activity to it for me. There's a rev up in this for me. And remembering we're all genomically different. You may get a different interaction, and that's okay. Yes.
Are more people, local people likely to be aware, or anybody in China, more likely to be aware of this particular green tea than they were of Dazzling, the one from last week?
Great question. So in the generalized tea population in China, would tea drinkers recognize and have had this tea, or would they recognize and have had Dazzling? Which one are tea drinkers more aware of? And it turns out it's Dazzling. And the reason it's Dazzling isn't because it's a better tea. No, it's not a better tea. But because it's listed in the groups of famous teas in China as one of the best. And so it comes from an area, the exact area that one of the top 10 green teas comes from in China. And so the result is that's why, and more of it's produced, not a lot more, but it's a more famous place that people will be aware of. This place, Tunxi, is very famous again for this artist colony and the beauty of Tunxi. It's not known except in tea circles of how good the tea is. So of course, all of you 99, of course, know this. And so this is why we went through this today, to give you an ability to, again, 100 miles away, difference. And difference driven by terroir, difference driven by the peasants or the farmers who actually harvest, and a difference by the local producers. Wonderful tea. Hope you all took good notes, because we have one more green tea embodiment, one more green tea in this series, I should say, embodiment, and that's what we'll be doing next week. So you all stay safe this week. Look forward to seeing everybody next week, and we'll see what embodiment is all about. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Here we go.
See you next